Alright guys, so last week on episode 16 I talked about the building blocks of an agile methodology. This is key because today I want to start digging into one of them. It's called the product backlog. The product backlog makes up the backbone of any agile or scrum methodology, and today I want to talk about what that actually means. Okay, so Scrum. So Scrum is a variation of Agile. Okay, so if you think of Agile as an umbrella, Scrum is one of those slivers of a triangle. It's just an implementation of how you would be Agile or think in an Agile mindset. Scrum itself has this thing called a product backlog. Now, last week's episode talked about it being a prioritized to-do list. And that's basically what it is, but there is a little bit more detail to it. So the prioritization actually is an interesting algorithm, right? Because what would happen is someone needs to prioritize this thing, but how do you prioritize things like features in a software, right? You really can't. Think about your favorite app out there, even if it's on your phone, and think about what are the features you like about it, and you're like, well, how do I prioritize this? I kind of like all of it at once, right? So what we do in a Scrum world is that we estimate how long it's going to take to actually make this thing, right? And then we estimate the sort of people that are going to derive value out of this thing. And we weigh those two things up. And if we find like it's really low-hanging fruit, lots of people are going to find value out of it, and it ain't going to cost too much to actually get this thing done, that starts becoming right at the top of the priority list, right? Then you've got the bottom of the priority list where not many people are going to be able to derive value out of this particular feature, and also it's going to cost a lot of time and effort, and there's a lot of complexity in building that feature. And so that sort of thing pushes down a little bit. So let me just quickly draw this up. So when it comes to priority, I don't know if you can see that, you've got a sort of a quadrant type effect. So you've got on one level, you want to talk about how much value is getting done in introducing that feature. And then on the other quadrant, you want to talk about how much cost, right, or investment is. And so depending on where this thing is spec'd, you'll have different features that have a different place in this plane. And depending on that, you'll either put it up or down the priority list, okay? So it's just going to be like this, and that sort of tells you where it goes, all right? So with a product backlog, guys, usually, like I said, it's a to-do list, but it's a bit more complex than that, right? Because each of these things in a to-do list usually is just like a one line. Go and get the veggies from the fridge, or, don't forget to buy the nappies. Those are the sort of things that would happen in a to-do list. With software, however, the to-do list, the actual item in the to-do list is a little bit more complex. We call it a user story, okay? So when you hear people say things like, oh, what's your story, or, story 453, they're actually talking about something called a user story, which is specifically a structured way of describing what is needed, okay? That's all it really is. And it does take a while to get used to it, but once you are used to it, it actually is a really great medium between a communication medium between all the parties that need to communicate about this particular feature or this to-do, right? And so very quickly, a story has two big parts. It has a description, which describes what needs to be delivered and how, and why. Very key here is a why. And then the second part is something called an acceptance criteria, which is what are the criteria that need to be met for this particular feature to be accepted by the user base, by our end consumer, right? And if you can get those two things in each of your to-do item lists, you're winning already, okay? So that's your product backlog, guys. And the backlog is important because it makes up what's going to get done in each of our iterations, okay? Each time we start doing some work. All right, guys, that's a really basic building block for today, but I really wanted to get that out of the way because it is very key to understanding how Scrum works. And the next week, we'll start talking about sprints and how backlogs and user stories fit into sprints. Okay? Guys, if you want to jump the gun and you want to learn more about Scrum or Agile before this these videos are delivered to you, feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. We're happy to take any questions and even show you how to implement something like this really well. Okay, if you find any value out of this, please share it with your colleagues, because I think if you're finding value out of it, people around you will find value out of it as well. Appreciate your time, guys. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Until then, stay focused.